The vanilla killer who holidayed with her parents and slept surrounded by teddy bears. How did church-going NHS nurse nicknamed the innocent one by friends and nice Lucy Letby by colleagues become a baby murderer?
Lucy Letby today became the most prolific baby killer in modern British history after a jury found her guilty of murdering 7 premature babies and trying to take the lives of 6 more during a year-long hospital killing spree. The NHS neonatal nurse, 33, who will likely spend the rest of her life in prison, preyed on babies small enough to fit in the palm of her hand by injecting air into their bloodstreams or feeding tubes, causing them to collapse and die. She attacked twins and murdered 2 boys out of a set of identical triplets within 24 hours of each other. Letby cried in court as the first of the guilty verdicts were returned. Her mother broke into a series of anguished sobs which continued even after she had left the court. At one point she cried out, "You can't be serious. This cannot be right." The cowardly killer later refused to return to the dock to hear the last of the verdicts, with the judge saying he had no power to force her to come up from the cells. Today, the victims' families said her conviction will not take away the extreme hurt, anger and distress they have suffered. After each of her murders, Letby appeared animated and excited, offering to bathe, dress and take photographs of her victims' bodies. Although her motive remains unclear, the prosecution suggested she got a thrill out of playing God. They also suggested she had been trying to impress a married doctor. Inside her messy, childlike home, police found a post-it note on which she had scrawled, "I am evil, I did this." In one case, a senior nurse on duty had to repeatedly tell Letby to come out of a room where a grieving couple were spending their last moments with their infant son. The father said Letby came in with a ventilated basket and told them, "You've said your goodbyes. Do you want me to put him in here?" This prompted his wife to tell her, "He's not dead yet." The nurse, a seemingly goofy, innocent young woman who had Disney cuddly toys on her bed, found different ways to inflict indescribable, inhuman levels of pain, with some of her victims breaking into tortured screams that experienced pediatricians had never heard before. Several had to take time off work to recover from the trauma. She got away with her killing spree despite consultants repeatedly trying to blow the whistle to managers about the spate of deaths on her watch. Dr. Ravi Jayaram, a TV medic who appears on This Morning, said he was fobbed off by nurses after his email warning about Letby prompted the response, "It's unlikely that anything is going on, we'll see what happens." Families of the babies killed and harmed have demanded a public inquiry into how Letby was able to murder and maim babies for so long. None of the parents had any idea their children had been the victims of foul play until they were visited by police up to 3 years later. Police are now reviewing the care of all babies that were admitted to the neonatal units of the Countess of Chester Hospital and Liverpool Women's Hospital, where Letby also completed 2 periods of training in 2012 and 2015. They will then examine whether they need to look into any cases in more detail. Letby attacked several babies by shoving hard plastic or wire tubes down their throats. Another suffered a ruptured liver, a violent injury likened by experts to injuries seen only in road accident victims. Like fellow nurse Beverly Illett, who was convicted of murdering 4 infants at 2 Lincolnshire hospitals in Lincolnshire, Letby used insulin as one of her attack methods. On one occasion it was also claimed she murdered a tiny, thin-weak premature baby boy because she was angry that one of her friends she was texting did not understand why she was upset at being given a break from working in intensive care following the death of another baby. In several of the cases, it was suggested Letby attacked the babies because she wanted a married pediatrician, who she insisted was just a close friend but was suspected of having an affair with, to be crash-called to the neonatal unit so they could try to save the children together, talk about treatments and sympathize with each other after their deaths. Professor David Wilson, a leading criminologist, told the Mail that this desperation to be acknowledged at work were signs of a hero complex, and narcissism in Letby's personality. Placing herself at the center of the crisis was also indicative of the mental condition, Munchausen's, he said. Tragically, even among the survivors there are children who will spend the rest of their lives needing round-the-clock care. Sources close to the investigation told the Mail that an independent inquiry was needed to get to the bottom of how Letby was allowed to get away with her crimes for so long. Manchester Crown Court was told that doctors repeatedly went to hospital managers to blow the whistle, but it wasn't until the deaths of two identical triplets in 23 hours in June 2016 that she was finally removed from the ward and the unexpected deaths and collapses stopped. Even after pediatricians raised their suspicions about her activities, hospital executives initially refused to remove her from the unit. When they eventually did so, they chose to give her a desk job in the patient safety department. It is understood Letby was suspended from work when she was arrested in July 2018, but remained on full pay, receiving her estimated £30,000 a year salary, or a total of around £75,000, until she was sacked when she was charged in November 2020. A nurse on the unit described the crying of one of Letby's victims as relentless, almost constant and with no fluctuation. Letby, who joined her colleagues on work social events, carried out her first murder the day after returning from Mohandu in York. She also struck before and after a holiday to Ibiza, telling colleagues she was back with the bang. After her eventual removal, she went on holiday to Turkey with her parents. She put them through the ordeal of attending each and every day of her trial and then witnessing her eventual conviction. Mostly, Letby chose to inject babies with air while her colleagues' backs were turned or they briefly popped out to look after another baby. Sometimes it was an overdose of milk, fed via a tube directly into their stomachs. Her modus operandi would change according to the opportunities she could create for herself. Tragically, she learned what police came to know as they investigated her litany of crimes, that it takes both very little time, and very little movement, to cause catastrophic harm to a premature baby. Letby attacked so frequently, and seemingly so casually, that she didn't always remember her victim's name. To help her remember, she took home scores of confidential medical sheets, not, as she claimed, because she liked to collect paper, but as a trophy so she could put a name to a murder. In part she was able to go undetected for so long because her colleagues, most of whom innocently counted her as a trusted friend and confidant, could not imagine that a fellow nurse might by killing the babies they were trying to raise from prematurity. A glance at her 2016 diary, a little girl's affair with a cute doggy picture on the front cover and flower doodles inside, shows she was constantly busy. There were references to the long shifts she liked to do because she so wanted to help, to salsa classes with her friends, or else meals followed by late-night cocktails at a bar in Chester. Amelia Dyer, a Victorian baby farmer, murdered infants in her care over a 30-year period and is estimated to have had hundreds of victims. A new investigation will be focused mainly on Liverpool Women's Hospital, where Letby attended a training course in 2015. But detectives are also likely to review the records of babies born at the Countess of Chester Hospital, where she is already known to have attacked babies in the year from June 2015 to June 2016. Letby started work there after finishing her nursing degree at Chester University. The court heard suspicions were first raised about Letby when 3 babies died in just over a fortnight, in June 2015, a full 12 months before she was eventually removed from the unit. Managers repeatedly refused to believe Letby was to blame and even tried to have her reinstated on the ward, months after doctors insisted she be removed from frontline duties. Only when police were eventually called in was Letby finally arrested. A source told the Mail that Letby's mother was distraught, wailing and crying and even telling police, "I did it, take me instead," in a desperate bid to protect her. During the course of their investigation, officers discovered 2 baby boys, from separate sets of twins, who had been deliberately poisoned with insulin 8 months apart. The results of their blood tests had been missed by doctors who had no idea there was a poisoner at work. Both baby O, a triplet, and his brother, Baby P, were murdered after 4 pediatricians raised their suspicions about the link between the nurse's presence and the deaths they had already witnessed. And even when the lead consultant, Stephen Brary, went back to management in the hours after Baby P's death on June 24, 2016, his request to have Letby taken off the neonatal unit was turned down flat. Letby, whose duvet bore the childlike motif "Sweet Dreams," came to court most days with a comfort blanket and clutched a small, stressed toy in her hands while in the witness box. Over 12 months she murdered 5 boys and 2 girls at the Countess, often attacking her victims at night, when there were less staff on duty or their parents had reluctantly left their children's bedsides to get some food or sleep. After killing the newborns, the court heard Letby appeared animated and excited, offering to bathe, dress and take photographs of the deceased infants for their distraught and unsuspecting parents. She also reveled in their grief, searching for them on Facebook, not only in the immediate aftermath but sometimes months and even years later. It was a bonus if she could help bereaved parents by preparing a memory box for them, hand and footprints of their lost baby, a photograph of 2 dead twins laid out in a Moses basket, a condolence card for another baby in time for the funeral. Calculating Letby covered her tracks by altering handwritten nursing charts or making false entries in the computerized nursing notes to make it seem like a baby was deteriorating or that she was feeding or administering medication to other children in a different part of the unit when her victims collapsed. She also gaslighted her colleagues, feigning upset when babies died, or suggesting medical reasons for their collapse or death to deflect blame from her murderous acts. And when doctors became suspicious, she even tampered with the care of a baby, not involved in the case, so she could make a fake formal complaint to bosses and give herself an insurance policy. A treasure trove of the more than 250 confidential nursing handover sheets and handwritten notes of resuscitations were found stashed under her bed by police when they searched her home, which was around a mile from the hospital. A confession in which she described herself as evil and wrote, "I am awful, I did this" was also discovered by officers hidden in a 2016 diary. Photographs of a sympathy card she sent to the parents of a 3-month-old baby girl she murdered and a thank you card received by nurses on the unit from another twin boy she killed were also found by investigators, years after the babies died, on her mobile phone. Read more. Chilling moment: Letby maintains her innocence in first police interview, as video shows arrest. Advertisement. Although her motive remains unclear, the prosecution suggested she got a thrill out of murdering the children, who were attacked when she was caring for them alone, or when the nurse allocated to look after them was on a break, or doctors were busy with other emergencies. Police and experts believe she thrived on the power of playing God with the lives of the vulnerable infants, enjoying the attention and drama their collapses brought to the neonatal unit. During her defense, Letby insisted many of the babies had been born on the cliff edge of life due to their extreme prematurity. She blamed their deaths and collapses on the medical incompetence of her colleagues, understaffing and filthy conditions on the unit, and said a gang of 4 senior consultants at the hospital apportioned blame on her to cover up for the hospital's failings. During the trial, the jury were shown a striking chart highlighting the 38 nurses who worked on the unit, correlated with 25 events, significant collapses or deaths of babies. It showed a long column of X's below Letby's name, indicating she was the only one on duty for all 25 incidents. By comparison, no other nurse was present on more than 7 occasions. Statistics also revealed that the number of deaths on the unit fell back to normal or average levels once Letby was shifted into an admin role, in July 2016. Whereas 4 babies died in the Countess's neonatal unit in 2013 and in 2014. The number of deaths more than doubled to 9 in 2015 and 8 babies died in 2016. By comparison, the number of deaths fell back to 4 in 2017 and reduced even further to 2 in 2018 after Letby was removed from the ward. None of the parents had any idea their children had been the victims of foul play until they were visited by police up to 3 years later. Mr. Justice Goss warned Letby he was considering a full life tariff when she is sentenced. Mr. Hughes said he was very happy for the parents of Letby's victims that justice had been done. But he added, "The only thing that would make me happier is if Lucy Letby would tell them why, and reveal some motive for what she's done, because that's the only time they will really be able to understand." The phrase, "it's every parent's worst nightmare," is often thrown around, but this really is every parent's worst nightmare. Monster, it fits her, because I can't think of anything worse. But I don't want to make the day about her because she gets that notoriety and thrives off that. This day is about the parents and getting a foundation to try and move on. Mr. Blackwell said he couldn't rule out more charges being brought in the future but dismissed the assertion that today's convictions were the tip of the iceberg. "I am confident in our investigation to date, but we need to satisfy ourselves and the public and any future families that nothing has been missed," he added. There are other aspects to this. A number of cases in the coroner's system have been paused pending the outcome of our criminal investigation. There may well be inquests or further reviews. There could even be potential for other independent inquiries that our team would need to support or inform. In terms of what should have been done, or could have been done, or the time before the police were involved, we would support and aid any further investigation and any lessons that need to be learned. But that's for another day and another decision-maker in the appropriate government or authority position. He said it would be understandable if some of the families of Letby's victims were angry that the hospital failed to act and remove her from frontline nursing sooner, and said the police would support any further inquiries. "I would thoroughly support any requests for information because what we all need is for the families to get justice and, to make sure, people are confident in the neonatal care that is supplied by the Countess of Chester and across the NHS," Mr. Blackwell added. Mr. Blackwell agreed what Letby had done was beyond comprehension and pure evil. "These are defenseless premature babies, they are the most vulnerable people in our society, days, weeks old. They cannot defend themselves," he said. "It is beyond comprehension and pure evil." One father, whose twin sons were attacked but survived, said, "The hospital management, they need to be held accountable. The doctors raised their concerns, and they didn't act upon them, they dismissed them. It could have been prevented. If they'd, hospital chiefs, acted on the initial suspicions, then definitely they could have stopped any more babies being attacked. It would have prevented multiple deaths. Investigations could have started and she would have been off the unit." He also said he hoped Letby would receive a whole life tariff and never be freed from gaol. Detective Chief Inspector Nicola Evans, the Deputy Senior Investigating Officer, added, "I hope today's verdict provides some of the answers to the families and goes some way to providing peace of mind as to what happened to their babies. It's unimaginable what they are going through, the courage and strength they've shown is really overwhelming." Lucy Letby was operating in plain sight. She abused the trust of the people around her, not just the parents, but also the nurses she worked with and regarded as friends. She violated their trust, in their unit, in their profession, and ultimately that's been laid out for everybody to see.